Hi Rajeev.
Hi.
What is the key factors or the key triggers which lead to innovation in India? Because a lot of people have been talking about that India is a major innovator, or would be, especially in the startup culture which has been largely evolving in India. What are the key drivers according to you which you can actually factor in this line?
Right. Well, a couple of things. One is we need to make a distinction between invention and innovation. Invention is you come up with a new idea or a new gadget or a new device or something. And then innovation means you put together the full chain of activities, the value chain of activities, so that this new thing, whatever it is, becomes commercially viable.
Okay.
So if you make that distinction, then the problem that we face in India is that yes, we are inventive. Many things that are being invented. For example, there is the whole idea of jugaad, where you do something clever to get around a particular problem, ingenuity. That is very much in evidence. The problem then becomes systematically creating a product or service out of this, which would be valuable enough for people to pay for it. In other words, commercializing it. That's where I think the problem is. And it's not unusual in many cultures that the inventors are technically competent people, unless they join up with people who understand the customer, that is marketing people. It's difficult for startup companies, even those that have good ideas, to get the pulse of the consumer and to convince them that they should buy this and therefore generate revenue and therefore make it successful and therefore an innovation.
Okay, so maybe something adding on to the discussions we had. As a part of the government machinery and also being a part of the IPR think tank which actually advises the government, what are the steps which you feel or you might have suggested to actually strengthen the systems which will actually help these innovators to develop or protect or strengthen their interests or their IPR rights as such?
Well, the IPR think tank or policy group, it only focuses on the invention and creativity part of it. It says nothing much really about the going to market. Although we have suggested that one of the things that should be done is to bring these inventors into an exchange, for example, where you can monetize, you can value your idea, and then figure out how much it's worth in terms of licensing it, right? So that's one thing. We do have a section on commercialization, but the real focus is on creation. So in terms of commercialization, there are many ideas that are floating around which are not properly protected, right? So the IP policy that we are talking about talks a lot about how you can protect your idea and then therefore gain rights to it. And unless you have the rights to it, you will not be able to monetize it, especially in terms of the small inventions that people have. There is this idea of what's called a petty patent or a petty invention, a small invention which has value, but it isn't as large as a disruptive or a big invention that gets a patent. So we have suggested that a concept known as utility models, which is meant for short-term protection for small ideas, should be incorporated into the government IPR laws. And this is something that's been prevalent in a couple of countries, not that many. It's not there in the US, but it's there in Germany. I believe it's in Japan and maybe China. So that, a small invention, the examples that I can think of, there is a fellow who invented a coconut climbing machine, right? It's not a great invention, but it's a useful thing.
Exactly.
But I know for a fact that he didn't end up getting any property rights. It was lost. Another is this is from Kerala, obviously, and there's another instance of a young woman, also from Kerala, who invented a mechanism whereby you can run your washing machine when there is no electricity by attaching your bicycle to it, which is good because you get exercise and the washing machine runs. That could be a utility model or a small patent. So she may get, 5, 6, 10 years protection, should be able to license somebody. Another example would be, you might have seen on the streets a person who's rigged up a bicycle for a handicapped person, okay? So that instead of turning the wheels with his feet, turns it with his hands. Now that's making a big difference to the life of that handicapped person. And it's a small invention. So this is one of the concrete suggestions that we have made. There are more general suggestions would be, how can you improve the implementation, in the government of the patent office, the copyright office, the trademark office, right? Digitizing things, providing more concrete timelines, etc. Increasing the number of offices, right? There is also the IP appellate board. How can that be strengthened? So there are a number of ideas that we have presented. But going back to what you first said, the commercialization aspect, we do talk about it a little bit, but it really is a much broader picture, because the main issue that we face in commercialization is marketing, not even the finance. Okay, finance you can find, because there are angel investors, venture capitalists, there is even a proposal that we made, actually not through the IP policy think tank, but through another mechanism to SEBI to allow crowdfunding. That is to say, thousands of people might be willing to put in 100 rupees or 500 rupees or something in a sort of charity, okay, to a new idea that they like. There is an entity called Kickstarter in the US, which has really successfully helped companies come up. And this doesn't involve any ownership. You're giving this away, and the best you may gain is early access to the product or something. You're not getting any equity in the company. Unfortunately, SEBI's rules say that if there are more than 49 people who have invested, quote-unquote, invest in a company, then the full weight of the company laws, registrar companies and so forth. So we talked to the SEBI chairman, and he said, okay, I'll consider this positively as an exception to that rule. So I'm saying there are many ways of getting financing. There are enough people who have money who are willing to invest. It's difficult getting them together with the people who want the funds. That is a problem, but the money is there. For example, at IIM Bangalore, we have the center called the N.S. Raghavan Center for Entrepreneurship. So there they incubate 6 companies every year, okay, and it's for a period of 18 months, and that gives them a leg up. First of all, the fact that they've been chosen from maybe several hundred business plans that came there, they're sitting there in IIM, and the professors there can help them, and they're introduced to financiers. All this is good news. At the end of 18 months, they have to leave. Whether they have succeeded in growing or not, that's, sorry, that's the term you get. And the technology business incubator at Technopark in Trivandrum, there is the Startup Village in Cochin. There is another, I believe, that's coming up. The Startup Village is coming up in Hyderabad, or no, it's not Hyderabad, Visakhapatnam, right? So these are all places where young people can find new avenues, and I think this is an undiluted good thing, because teaching at business school for some years, I found that many of our young people are not job creators inherently; they're job seekers. But that, I think, is changing. I think the anxiety that people had, how am I going to pay off my B school loans and so forth, there are a few brave souls who are venturing out. So whatever can be done to help them. But as I said, going back to the significant issue, it's marketing. Marketing is so important in the sense that people need to know that you have created something extraordinary, right? And it's a variety of things, maybe media, publicity, maybe, that's why, for example, for those people being in IIM, it's a big marketing boost, right? Because it says, okay, this is a branded thing. But then, really reaching out to them, to customers, and convincing them, and selling, that is where I think many companies are failing. But on a positive note, there are some opportunities now for doing software or digital or internet-based companies with very little investment, because you can rent a lot of the required infrastructure. You don't need to buy big computers. You can rent CPU power, you can rent storage, etc. So it's quite easy to get an offering off the ground, okay, in terms of the technical part. But the marketing part is still a huge problem.
Thanks, Rajeev.
You're welcome.
Thanks for sharing your thoughts.
Sure.
I hope your policies, IPR policies, will bring a big change in India.
We hope so too. We hope so.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Thanks.